The look and the feel of who's homeschooling has really diversified. You've got, from Muslims, Christians, Jews, there's individual homeschooling groups for various worldviews, secularists. I mean, there's Wiccan homeschooling support groups. It's just becoming accepted, and parents are rightfully saying, I would like to be involved in my child's education. And more importantly to me, Tobin, they like their kids.
One of the negative stereotypes that my husband and I hear of more often than not is that homeschooled children are not socialized well. And I find that funny because that was probably the biggest reason we got in trouble when I was in school, for too much socialization.
We early on encountered people wondering about that big question, what about socialization? And I would much prefer to be the one coming alongside my children and choosing who else we come alongside. Clarinet and keyboard.
Guitar.
And guitar.
I want to go back to Daryl.
Is there anything I haven't mentioned that you thought you were going to be doing or wanted to do, or anything I've said we're doing that you don't want to do? I remember seeing a bumper sticker that said, socialization is the reason I homeschool.
A lot of times when dads get teenagers, are like, gosh, I don't even know these kids anymore. But since I've been with them through the whole process, I don't feel like I have to get to know my kids again. I know who their friends are, I know what they're reading, but I'm also interacting with them. That's a real extra bonus that I wasn't really expecting with homeschooling, is to enjoy each other's company so much.
I think the other thing that we often hear is, how are we qualified to train them in all the subjects? And I think because we are most interested in their education, more so than anyone else, that motivates us to learn the things we don't know as well, to come alongside them and really in humility learn with them. So it is kind of a family effort.
The homeschooling parents I interviewed for this film all chose home education for similar reasons. And more parents are making the same choice. Since its Supreme Court recognition in 1972, the homeschooling movement has grown from 10 to 15,000 students in the 70s to over 2 million today, giving rise to a thriving marketplace that supports hundreds of new businesses and programs. I would come to an intimate knowledge of one such program, Classical Conversations.
One of the hurdles is getting breakfast in while preparing lunch. Russell, I need you to come help unload the dishwasher. Hey, it's 5 minutes till departure, kids.
My classroom consists of my 2-story house and a room in a church where we hold our little school day sessions. It's fun. One day a week I get to act like I go to a school. I have like a lunch bag.
You wrote in it?
No, my dad did. I know.
You have to write in books. How do you interact with the author? How do you wrestle with him? How do you talk back to him?
He's a notebook.
How do you learn unless you're doing those things? No, you have to. And then when somebody else reads the book, then they get to see how you wrestle with him, and they get to learn from both your wrestling and their own wrestling.
Classical Conversations weekly communities are a resource for homeschooling parents who are encouraged to attend, and the program allows the director of each community to operate as a small business.
In Classical Conversations communities, the relationship between the parent and the tutor is somewhat of a partnership. It's a give and take. The student is the beneficiary as well as the parent, and the tutor, I would say, as well. But a tutor's meeting once a week with the student. So obviously, the parent is still the primary educator in the homeschooling environment. They provide a community dynamic that allows for students to come in and practice dialectic skills, rhetorical skills, the discussions, the presentations, the thinking of ideas. And we are really seeking to encourage other parents to not settle for the mainstream cultural experience that's out there educationally.
Hitler so feared the consequences of my friend's ideas that he did everything possible to eliminate him and his ideas. And you, if you read the introduction, what did Hitler do? He killed everybody in this guy's family except for his daughter, except for him and his daughter. Were the only two to survive, and that wasn't for lack of trying. They just escaped, and it was all because of this guy was teaching what he was teaching in his philosophy class at college.
I guess Mr. Bianco's great. Don't show him this. Mr. Bianco, I don't even know how to explain it. He is an awesome teacher, and he really holds us to our...
He's not afraid to tell us we're doing something bad.
Yeah, he's not afraid to tell us when we're doing not good in something. I think we've grown as a family, you could say.
He's like the Jolly Green Giant, I guess.
Well, this year we have been learning to think and analyze things in new ways.
He's very smart and he has a lot of good ideas, and he's very knowledgeable. So studying under him has been an experience.
What happens when you have a group of people that don't think?
Vegetables.
They become malleable, and
Formulate
controllable,
their own
don't they?
theories and
They don't have their own theories or ideas. Do you think that leaders want people to be thinkers?
No.
Do you think they want us asking these kind of questions?
No.
Right? I mean, what Hitler didn't. He wanted a mindless puppet, and instead he had a philosophy professor that was giving him a hard time, and so he killed him, or he killed his family. You know. So, in one sense, what I'm asking you guys to do can actually be quite dangerous, can't it? What I'm asking you to do could lead to you being a martyr someday for Christ, for freedom, for liberty, for anything, depending upon what happens in our future, right? So you still want to be thinkers?
Classical conversations sometimes needs explaining because it's a little bit unusual in the sense that it's not a drop-off program, it's not a school, it's not a co-op. The families who join us tend to want two things. One, the classical model in their curriculum, and the other is they want to homeschool. They don't want someone to usurp that from them, but they want the community that the students receive by being part of a small group. And so by participating in classical conversations once a week for 30 weeks in the high school program and for 24 weeks with the younger students, it's enough guidance that a lot's accomplished. On the other hand, you don't end up like giving your whole life to a school situation. It's only about half of the year. It's not every day. It's one day a week. So there's a lot of flexibility.
The Classical Conversations curriculum ranges from grades K through 12, with the high school years being dubbed challenges.
He's going to talk in really black and white terms. He's going to be very much, this is good and this is bad. And what I hope you guys bring to the conversation is, yeah, but maybe this was okay, or maybe this wasn't okay. Contradict him, play devil's advocate.
Challenge 1 and 2 prepare students to talk about ideas, using what are called Socratic dialogues to discuss issues raised in the topics of American literature, policy debate,
well, who's paying for it if it's free?
And Shakespeare.
Cohorts.
They also pursue Latin, mathematics, physical science, and biology.
Why do they have donuts on them?
Because they're rhythm life for.
Oh, that's cool.
Do they taste like the sharks you were dissecting?
I cannot say.
Challenge 3 demands more in terms of writing and presentation skills, continuing the discussion of ideas in philosophy, literature.
Noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. 'Twas it so, it was a grievous fault.
History.
All right, so what's the first thing that happens when Jefferson tells them he's not going to pay the bribes anymore?
At the U.S. consulate, they cut down the flag.
How does the author describe that act? Seth?
An act of war.
He describes it as an act of war.
Impromptu speaking. Algebra, logic, and science. Challenge 4 finalizes the process with students actually leading classes while tutors stand by as a resource.
Mimetic desire is the notion that we desire things not because they are desirable, but because others desire them. Do you think mimetic desire is a viable fear for these characters, though?
One of the greatest joys of learning is to learn with other people and to study with other people and to not be lectured at. And so sure, now and then I'll have to lecture on something because it's a new topic they're not familiar with. But in general, I mean, I'm just there to be one more person in the conversation and, keep them on track. When you get 12 students together, they're going to laugh and giggle and enjoy each other's company too, and that's part of what we want to do. But what we're trying to do is show them, you can enjoy each other while you talk about the Bible, or while you talk about Shakespeare, or while you try to figure out distributive law and algebra. It's all just interesting.
This sense of community is common among homeschooling families, whether in classical conversations, in other programs, or homeschooling independently. It's a culture with a unique bond, and it's a culture of community.
I was on my way to help 6 orphanages in India. We called the education board, in Stockholm, and I just told them, we're going to travel out, but we need some homeschooling material. And they said that totally okay. You can you just call the principal where your son is supposed to go to school, and it's his responsibility to give us the material. And that is how I understand society as well. You ask for help when you need it, and they provide, because that's what we pay tax for.
Right.
So I called him, and he was telling me that it doesn't matter if you go to India, it doesn't matter what you plan at all, your son has to go to school, period. And I was trying to discuss with him a few articles from the Declaration or whatever, but he was not aware of any rights, no nothing. He even told me to shove my rights somewhere. It was just one way from the beginning. Dominic has to go to school. And it came to the local education board, or whatever to call it.
Yeah.
And I told them that I am actually in control when it comes to the education, because first of all, it's in the Declaration. Then second, it's my child, period. But they didn't want to take a meeting to listen to us. So what to do? And I thought that if we leave right now and come back later, we'll be in more trouble. So I thought that we better fight this out first. We went to a court hearing about homeschooling, and so many people say that you have to have a lawyer, and you cannot speak about rights and stuff in the court. The only thing I brought to the court was the Declaration of Human Rights, and I pointed out in an article where it says that the parent has the most to say. So we won the case. It took 40 minutes only. 6 weeks after that, we were about to go to India. Social services called up and said that we're going to do one more investigation. At that time, I was pretty tired, and I said, give it a rest. Please stop. You have investigated us. You have done everything. Now we have said hi to everybody, and we're just going to leave. So respect that. And they said that, okay, we'll close the investigation. But still on the airport, I didn't feel safe until we had left the ground, and I was right, because when we were about to tax out, they stopped the plane and they told us that we have orders to take your son if you leave Sweden. Everybody in the plane was so quiet. They took us further on to the local station there at Arlanda Airport. And I don't remember if it was a woman or a man who entered the room and said that social services want to talk to your son for 5-10 minutes. Is that okay? So I thought, well, perhaps they believe that we are beating him or anything, so maybe they just want to check him.
Right.
So we have nothing to hide. Please talk to him, check him, do whatever. And after that, he never came back.
Wow.